who was the one who said, do not trust anyone over 30?
Who said that?
No, that was said by a 60s radical. Abby Hoffman. Abby Hoffman said that. In fact, it's a book. Do not trust anyone over 30. Because that was the social revolution of the 60s. And that was the feeling that they have nothing to offer anymore. Or they're contriving or they're conspiring to make the world disadvantageous to young people and their new ideas. Which is okay. So it's a little bit inflammatory. But I guess that was the purpose of him saying it, so people will think about it. And we have to continuously think about it, and we have to continuously accept that there are new things going on in the world, and we have to incorporate them in all that we do in government.
Amen.
And that's what young people, that's the purpose that young people will serve.
Hi.
Where, hello.
Do the windmills really work? And do you have data regarding how much energy is conserved or produced?
They're actually electric fans. They're not windmills. So the windmills work, yeah. Windmills and wind turbines are well-developed, very mature, well-understood technology. It really is very simple. You have a form of energy, the wind. It turns those blades, the nacelle, and you have a coil within a magnetic field, and that generates an electrical current. That's how every turbine, every generator works. So it's well understood how to make an efficient turbine, how to make an efficient wind turbine, and they have been quite successful. They provide when at full production, they provide 34 megawatts of power, 34.5 megawatts of power. There are 20 turbines in Ilocos Norte. So they do work, but you must have sufficient wind. And that is why we must not give the impression that windmills is the solution to all the Philippines. It's not. It simply isn't. The windmills are a specific solution to a very practical problem that Ilocos Norte had. And that problem was that Ilocos Norte is very far from the sources of power. And so the transmission lines are hundreds of kilometers long to transmit that power to Ilocos Norte. Any problem along that line, hundreds of kilometers, 600 kilometers yan, dahil galing dito malapit sa Manila. Any problem along the 600 kilometers, putol ang kuryente namin, brown out kami. Or nagka-fluctuate, basta't magkakaproblema. When we were talking to industrialists and telling them to come into Ilocos Norte and invest and build plants and factories and whatnot, they said, we cannot because the power is too dirty. It's not, it fluctuates nga, the voltage changes, nagkaka-brown out. Masisirang makinarya namin dito. So we cannot put in it. So we said, how do we do this? We have to solve this problem. Because if we cannot have investment, hanggang dito na lang tayo. And so I remember that there was a proposal a few years before that to examine wind power. And we did. We studied it. At that time, I'm talking about 95, 96. At that time, wind power was not viable yet as a commercial enterprise. Or we couldn't find a way to make it pay. And I knew the government was not going to fund it. So we had to get a commercial entity to come and invest, bring in their own capital. But the only way to do that is to show that they will in fact get a return on their investment. So at that time, hindi kaya. Now, when we were trying to examine the problem, binalikan ko and I tried to look at the figures. The figures had changed because the technology had improved. They had a better understanding of how to harness the wind. And basically, the numbers got much, much better. And wind power then was much more acceptable than it had been before. You know, in the calculation of risk, when the income over 1 plus I is the interest rate. That's the risk. You can add that. Bumaba na yung risk. So it became viable. And that's why we looked into it, we put the package together. The financing was still very difficult because it was still new. And even with our dealings with government were not that easy because we went to the Department of Energy and we said, oh, anong kailangan ninyong mga licenses, mga certificate, mga permit? And they looked at us and they said, di namin alam. Ano sa palagay ninyo? And I said, why don't you know? I said, because we've never done it before. So together with the Department of Energy, we put together, slowly we went through the thing, and the process is more established now. But in any case, and we had a bit of a windfall because the actual ROI for our windmills originally was 22 years, 23 years, which is not bad for a power plant kasi talagang long-term investment. But when the Kyoto Agreement was signed, and within the Kyoto Agreement, there is the provision for the payment of carbon credits for methane or any greenhouse gases that is not being put into the air. It is given a dollar value, and whoever is doing the operation so that like producing power without putting carbon into without carbon emissions, you get a carbon credit. Once that carbon credit came in, that 22, 23 years shrank immediately down to 12 to 14. So you can see that those initiatives work. They make a difference. Now our trouble was to find more wind turbines because everybody was buying wind turbines. The availability was limited, so the price started to go up, which is the opposite of what we were seeing. The price had begun to go down because there was a larger volume of production. So, but it started to go up kasi naging fashionable ang wind energy the last 2-3 years. In fact, I went to China because China has started to produce wind turbines. And I asked them if I could guarantee a supply of wind turbines. And we did. We got the supply. So then I put together another group. And just last month, all of the hitches for the continuing development of the windmills in Ilocos Norte have been solved, and they were bringing in more wind turbines. The Ilocos Norte, as I said, we are now producing 34 to 35 megawatts at full production, and the potential apparently in Ilocos Norte itself, just the province, is 250 megawatts. So if we are able to exploit that to its fullest, we will have close to 120, that kind of number of turbines, whereas now we have 20. Now, I keep stressing when I say that the production is 34 megawatts at full production. We are not always at full production. When we're in the summer, the windmills don't turn. There's no wind. So it's not. It is not the answer to everything. It is an additional help, but you still need to take care of your base load, the load that you need to satisfy, the demand that you need to satisfy, even when you don't have wind, even when it's summer, even when it's typhoon. So the analysis is always net. Now, again, I'm not saying that windmills are the answer to every place in the Philippines, because most places, in fact, have very little wind. Have not enough wind, do not have enough wind to justify a windmill. But I think the thought process and the process of problem solving that we applied for our wind farm is something that can be applied to the other problems that we face. I keep talking about new technology, new methods. I think should do more of that. Like, I always explain it this way. Ang Pinoy, we're always kawawa. We're always kulang sa pondo. We're always kulang sa training, kulang sa tao, kulang sa oras. We're always kulang. Whatever it is we want to do. And if you ask a European or you ask an American or a Japanese person and say, this is what we want to do, these are our assets, they'll look at it and they'll say, imposible yan, because it's just kulang. You just don't have enough of anything. But we Pinoys, we are so resourceful and ingenious. We find ways to make it happen. And yung dinidiscuss